Everybody, we're ready to 100 talk. Sorry for the delay. We were fixing the YouTube streams. Restream changed recently, and some things have kind of thrown your old boomer dad for a loop on the production end. But we are back. We are 5-1. Jordan and I are feeling undefeated, though.
I'm feeling 6-0, Cole.
I'm feeling 6-0. And we're ready to do the dang thing with you guys. Saw a lot of love in the chat getting ready to go. So it's going to be a good night. I can feel it in my bones. This is going to be a good night. Even if we've got pixelated Jordan, each one of those pixels will be bringing you unbounded energy.
100p. Jordan.
All 100 of those P's are going to look great. Jordan looks like a Lego mosaic.
We should buy this set this summer. You can have my pixelated mug on your wall. Here, I think we should flip it, Cole. Usually we end with listener takes and questions. I think we should start with one from Ron Jobinson in the chat here.
All right.
I'll read it. It's still very early season, so don't get too excited. But enjoy the wins because we're playing well, and it's hard not to love these dudes. If that doesn't just sum it up, it's hard not to love. I feel like everybody loves this team. This is 100 Talk. Welcome. It's 100 Talk.
Yeah, I think you're right. And we don't do channel redemptions on this podcast, but because we got a John Robinson take the lead off, we'll go ahead and allow it. Rocky Sam 2400, this one's for you. And let's do the dang thing. All right. So powered by Rip It. Thanks, Jordan. The only energy drink that actually tastes good. This one is power flavor, just straight up power today because I'm feeling powerful, and it matches my red numbers collection shirt. So,
wow, major flex. Okay.
Yeah, that's what I do.
Yep.
You'll notice that my beard is still here in all of its actually kind of nasty neck beard, uncared for glory. Here, yeah. I didn't really do much because I was figuring it was going to be gone. Clearly, Damonte was going to solo kill Perkz, and you guys in chat and Twitter chose to make me get rid of my beard if that indeed happened. But alas, not only did Tanner not kill Perkz, he didn't get a single kill in that game. Dang it! Nonetheless, not too upset about that game at all. We'll talk about it later.
No, we will.
Anything before we jump in, Jordan?
Just it's a good time to be a 100 Thieves fan. It's a good time. We're gonna have fun. We're gonna talk about some stuff. Hard to feel too salty about anything when we're 5-1, and we're in a good spot. So let's enjoy this moment, Cole. I can't remember the last time we were 5-1.
No, I can't either. And your pixels are multiplying before my eyes. I think we are all the way up to 260p by now.
Oh, yes.
So
see? Good vibes are spreading to my upload rate.
Things are really, really heating up. And look, we've got both Kelsey Moser's in here earlier. Papa Smithy's in here now telling us to cover the Academy team. And so Papa Smithy and Ron Johnson too. You 100 Thieves people, soon. We'll do it soon. How does it feel? How do you like it when we tell you soon? All right.
Yeah, Cole. We'll do that as we roll out our Valorant show and our CDL show, as well as the Academy and 100X shows. But the good news is, I guess I could just quit my job.
I was gonna say, yeah. If you see us doing that, pray for me because that means I don't have a job anymore. Okay, this has been an off the rails start. The rails start. But yes, as you mentioned, we did indeed watch the game. Oh my goodness, you are probably at 720p now.
Look out.
We were warmed up. Your internet is warmed up. It's
I asked the housemate to just hit the old cable modem crank or get the crank going.
Just have your foot on the pedal a little bit, speed it up.
Yeah. Got to put some more coal in the burner.
Okay, focus.
Oh, coal. Okay,
Focus.
3 games.
Focus. 3
70
games.
minutes.
One was against FlyQuest.
Yes.
So here's the deal. I wanted to kind of just bring up something to close the chapter on a previous take that we had. This is one of the things that, I was pointing out when FBI first took Senna with Huhi's TK and we first pulled out that lane. I was saying, I'm really glad they do that, because if we show that effective lane that people have to plan for, it becomes a thing, right? Not only does it complicate your prep, it complicates your draft, and it can complicate things on the Rift too, which is what happened in this game. So they were allowed to take it again, building upon the previous, what I thought was a pretty good outing. The previous one was like pretty good, showed enough for it to be a thing. This one ended up being like extremely good, especially early. It was so oppressive.
That's exactly the word.
FBI, it was like he was remembering everything his classmates said to him when he was in 3rd grade, and he was just taking it all out on the bot lane of FlyQuest. That Senna was really something to watch. Senna is rarely, in my opinion, a fun champion to watch. It's rarely fun, even though it works. Right. It works, just fine. But man, we got ourselves one of these fully enjoyable Sennas. Looked absolutely great. Jordan, what kind of effect did that have on your blood?
Turned it into pure gold. Baby. I don't know. Blood pressure was down.
You got the old gold blood.
Got gold coursing through my veins. Here's what it reminded me of. If you've seen the movie The Matrix, Neo, when he first starts to see the Matrix, it looked like FBI just knew what was going to happen, Like, here's the other thing it reminded me of. It's like he was playing a modded version of League of Legends that didn't have minions in it, and the game is just a 2v2 deathmatch in lane where you try to fight the other champions. That's fasting Senna, right? Like, you ignore minions, you collect souls, you try to harvest souls from the enemies. It was great. I love to watch it. It must have been absolutely miserable to play against. But yeah, a lot of the Senna TK, it's popular now. It's out there. But a lot of them are, it's kind of that just farm it up, and then you hit the flame horizon. That's the new word of the season. Have you caught it?
It's an old word. It's made a surging comeback. Yeah.
I don't remember it from before as much, but yeah, you hit the point where you
it's from before our time.
Okay, you're autoing from a full. They don't know where you are. They can only see your auto. Like the little lance thing that her gun shoots out.
Where am I getting shot from?
I don't know.
Getting shot from Fog of War.
So you hit that point, but no, he was ready to fight straight away. So it was a ton of fun to watch, and with good effect. I would say. It
really was like you said, there's 2 games being played in bot lane. There's the 1v2 that FBI is playing, and just watch TK farm is the other game that you're playing.
It's a much less better selling game, by the way, but an effective one all the same, because that TK, you couldn't kill him in the game we played against Fly.
And when you get 2 for the price of 1, who's going to complain? So I think like my point there, like I said, I'm just closing this take from previously. Like, I am glad that we have this as a really good, strong option now. Like I said, we have it, first of all, as a strategy to use if we're granted that option, and 2, as a draft consideration for our opponents, which is nothing but a win. Every time you complicate draft for somebody, it's a win. We as 100 Thieves fans of past years know what it feels like when there's like, oh, okay, we just can't ban out enough stuff for it to matter, right?
Right.
And that's kind of the feeling that we want to impose on other people. There was another pick pulled out for this game. Udyr. Jordan.
We finally got him, Cole.
We got him. And I wanted to ask you, just how you feel about Closer's Udyr. How effective was it? Did it give you the gold blood or a different kind of blood?
Silver blood. No, it wasn't the scourge of the game as it has been in many other Udyr games. I think I believe that the nerfs came through. Yeah, it was, I feel like he got nerfed, and I think it was like less AoE damage on his Phoenix form or something that isn't actually.
You'd have to say that to someone who cares about patch notes. I am not that person. So.
Yeah. My point being here that I don't think it was the kind of thing that's like gonna fully remove him from the game, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's not like they just removed one of his abilities and they're like, guess we'll see him again, never.
Yeah.
I swear they do that sometimes. I think Silas every once in a while gets hit with one of those. So it's still a power pick, it's still viable, but I don't know. Yeah, it just didn't feel like he wasn't taking over the game, right? Am I remembering that correctly?
Even though he was fine, right? Like you and I sometimes are too similar. By the way, your quality has been a downslope. Guys, you got to get those subs up for Jordan's quality. You got to pay for his bandwidth with your Twitch subs.
Yeah. Actually.
Yeah, no. So you and I ended up kind of feeling the same way about that. Like I thought it was a good pick. I was expecting it to do more, but it turns out it didn't really matter for this game a whole lot. So in a game where it mattered more, then there potentially would have been a more palpable difference. I didn't think it was bad at all.
No.
But I was hoping based on the, show the Senna TK and it pops off and you have to, plan for it. I was hoping maybe a similar thing for him with that champion. I don't feel it got to that level. I don't think it was bad at all. So I'm not really complaining, but
right. This is not a criticism. It's more just an observation.
I guess and that's maybe a larger conversation to be had. Maybe not now, maybe at a different podcast, but about closest champion pool. I'm not sure what it is yet. He hasn't had to play a wide variety of stuff, and he's clearly good on what he's played so far.
Like he's not Dardoch. He's not playing a different champion every time. He's not Blabber drawing 5 jungle bands, right? Where it's like
and still picking something that goes off. Yeah.
Of course. So yeah, it is an interesting question. I think largely it's because we've not seen him forced into the tier 2 or 3. Like he's reliably getting good meta junglers.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm guessing that'll change as Riot desperately attempts to fix that role in patches, I think 11.4 on.
They're going to pass junglers out of the game for like 3 weeks. Let's just try it without there. No one plays it anyway. Let's just.
It's not popular. It's just 2. Let's go 2 top. 2 top, 2 bottom. It's popular. It's the new thing. Yeah. So there was something you said as you were describing his Udyr, which I'm going to get it wrong, but it was basically like I would have liked for it to have been more of a pop off, but I guess it didn't really matter.
Yeah.
I think that's a paraphrase. It's not entirely inaccurate, but I have left a lot of our games feeling that way, where we have players who in some games, they just aren't asked to do all that much. Like he didn't need to spend a lot of time in the bot lane setting us up because it was the FBI show. Right. And I think for that, like FBI ended 8-1 and 6. Yeah. So when you have somebody who can have the kind of game that he did on Senna in this game, it kind of takes away the need for anybody else to really be popping off.
Sure.
Like he smothered this game pretty well single-handedly. And I don't think we should view that as a deficiency of anyone else. I think it's just truly that, look, you have a guy who you need to do certain things. Like you have to accomplish a set of things as a team, and FBI was basically doing them all. So that's not a bad thing. And everyone else had, the game that they needed to have.
Yeah, it's kind of nice, right? To have, it's like, oh, okay, we don't need all cylinders firing in the best way to win this game.
Which is often how this our rosters have been, right? Like if everybody shows up and plays at their absolute best, we have a shot. And now it kind of feels like, you could let FBI have Senna if you want, but there goes your game, right? So that feels very different from years past.
Yeah. I will say when I watched this game, I was a little ambiguous about how much we were dominating because, clearly FBI, they got that first tower down in 10 minutes.
Yeah.
I think he took mid tower too, if I'm remembering right. It didn't feel like a complete blowout the whole time to me. But then when I was kind of reviewing earlier today, I was like, oh, we didn't give up a single turret.
Yeah.
Just none.
Right.
No turrets.
Drake.
The ending was kind of weird. Like, I don't know. It just it was a game where I think we beat them very thoroughly, but in a way where it plays out and you're kind of like, what just happened?
Yeah.
You know, again, aside from the early bot lane thing, the early bot lane thing was that was a complete and obvious devastation, and the rest kind of just like crumbled for them in that way that's kind of difficult to put your finger on it. So
that's the thing.
Yeah, it's so interesting to watch a game like that and to get to the end and be like, oh yeah, good, we really beat them pretty handily. Great work, everybody. Right. It's like, huh. All right, cool. I guess I wasn't paying enough attention or what.
Yeah.
But especially, you know, that's the kind of thing I want, you know, personally, selfishly, against Licorice, that's what I wanted to see. I mean, Licorice had a good game. Yeah. Licorice was like the shining light for them. Ssumday definitely didn't have a takeover game. He is pretty clearly playing weak side, like basically every game at this point, and it's working dandy, you know?
Yeah. I mean, we'll talk more about that, but yes, like he is decidedly the weak side of our map, and not, you got to be careful how you say that. Not that he's our weak link or weak player. Yeah. But that is not where we want to play games. And I am totally fine with that. Like, I think that is a smart move to make. I think you look at teams. Okay, let's look at FlyQuest, right? Licorice is their standout player. He had a 3-1-3 game on Gangplank. He played well. He is obviously their best player. It's not close, and they are struggling. And this is not going to be like this is not my thesis, but you look at Team Liquid, 3-3, vastly underperforming expectations at this point. I'd say it's safe to say that they are disappointing a lot of people. Yeah. Some people are still saying that they're the odds-on favorite to win. They're just like, it'll happen. And, you know, I think sometimes those people end up regretting how long they take a team. Alfari he's the standout for them, right? Like, he is dominant, and he really puts a hurting on people in lane specifically, and they're 3-3. So I do think that right now, as we've experienced in the past, having a super strong top laner is not a recipe to win the majority of your games in the LCS. And I don't think we're any different. And I'm glad that for once, that is not our hope, that we can find out a way to have our top be the carry for these games, because I just don't think it's something that, I mean, certainly in seasons past, we can figure out how to make it work. And I would say that in a limited sample set, it's not really working for some of these teams in the LCS this split either. Yeah.
Though I will say that I am one of those people who will still say TL is going to be a top 3 team this year.
I don't think they're bad. But I think at some point you have to say, like, are these guys going to win the LCS this split? Because they've already dropped some games here.
But they still have quite a lot of talent on that roster. So, you know,
for sure.
I think that'll come together. But they will have to beat us, which is the problem. Because they are 0-2 against us this year if you count LCS lock-in. Oh man, it would be so good to goose egg TL. Anyway, anything else on this? Oh, the ending. We didn't talk about the ending. So, oh gosh, I actually really wanted to watch this back because it was weird, right? They mounted an unexpected stand when we were basically like about to knock down the Nexus. I think they got 4 of us down and maybe 1 got away, something like that. And then he moved on to Elder. Now, chat, you're going to have to let me know if I'm remembering this right. What I seem to remember is that Huhi went in and TP'd into their base to pressure them to come off of Elder.
Yep.
And then when he drew, I think he drew out a couple of backs, even though 1 person stayed. And then he ulted, TK ult, onto the dragon to contest that and fight that. I loved that, man.
Yeah.
That was so much fun. And it's
Huhi
like,
is nuts.
I mean, it is Elder Dragon, right? Elder Dragon is a big deal, especially after they just won a fight in base against us.
The game could have swung, right?
The game, it has the potential to swing. I don't know. We'll see. I still think we would have won that game if they got Elder, but Huhi made that really fun play and just kind of screwed things up for him. Oh, you love to see the creativity, and that's something. Just one of many reasons why it feels really nice to have him back. It really does.
Oh my gosh, it's like I wouldn't be surprised if he's one of those players we talk about in the same way that we do Ryu, right? Like looking back, just like how many good plays did he make? How many excellent macro calls did this team have? And I saw somebody on Twitter talking about how we don't really know who is behind that, but you have to imagine that he has got a big voice in the team, right? Like he's a veteran player. He's got a ton of experience and clearly just, a galaxy brain. When you look at plays like that, that was masterfully done.
Even though, as right Nightbeast is pointing out, he's 0-2 to Baron this year.
That's true too, which maybe there's something there. He recognizes you make the sacrifice, you get the win. you appease the Baron's soul, and it helps you out. The other thing, when you actually wrote this note, I thought what you're talking about is, it's much less exciting. But he just like tanked up the turret. He became our super minion, and the team took out a turret. I'm pretty sure it even had the backdoor
bot side,
bonus on it. Yeah. So like all of those kinds of plays, and we'll talk more about that. It's just it's throwing people off. You can tell. Like we're not playing these set pieces as people expect us to. It's like we understand what the GA is on this situation. We've just taken out 4 of your guys as you have been trying to kill our Nexus. So you'll back now, thanks. And we'll collect our reward, which is the Elder. And he's like, no. It ain't going like that. So that's been great. And I think it makes a huge difference for not only how fun it is to watch this team, but the way that we can close out games. We're seeing more and more of that, which is exciting to see.
Yeah. Okay. So we expected a win there. So we got the win, check the box. Cool. We're all good. Cool. We differed in our prediction of the C9 game though. I predicted a C9 loss. You predicted a C9 win. Well, I predicted that 100 Thieves would lose to C9. You predicted that we would win this game. And as I already mentioned, with the Damonte solo killing Perkz bet, my beard was safe. But also the Prophet Cole was safe here too, as we lost to C9. I said last week, my full prediction was a 1-2. I thought we were going to lose to the TL also. And I said, and I'm not worried about it.
Yep.
As long as we don't get stomped, I'm not worried about that. Like those are acceptable losses to me as we figure out who we are and what we're doing against the top competition. And I mean, we came out, I think that part of my take was Prophet Cole. I feel totally fine with this loss to C9. It was kind of weird, but we showed a few things along the way that, are kind of the signs of the things that you want your team to have as a part of the way that they play the game. So I'll let you start with this one because you plugged something in on the rundown that you wanted to bring up.
This was a weird start for us. It was just a bad start. I mean, it all added up to being a really suboptimal start. And we made a big play on an invade that didn't pay off. We got spotted on the first bush, right? Credit to C9, credit where it's due. They anticipated it, they saw it, and they reaped the rewards. It resulted in us basically being super far behind in mid.
Yeah.
With Perkz doing a good job zoning Damonte off. And I'm not considering these guys accountable for this. Like, I think it was just a product of being caught with our hand in the cookie jar as we did. So Damonte was way behind CS and XP, like level 1 when he got killed in mid lane. And then Closer had kind of a misstart with his clear. So, overall, just like we started way behind. And this game looks very different if we don't have that start, right? So I think that's worth noting. And that was just a strategic decision, right, of how we're going to start this game. So those things they don't come down to individual accountability anymore. I guess you could say that somebody should have realized the jig was up and to just accept a small loss and reset and make sure you get a good start to the game. But we stayed and we tried to make something of it. So I think that's worth noting. And it really made the game early on harder for those two guys specifically.
Yeah.
And then I think the other thing you look at is what were we doing in the other places, other spots on the map. And I think that's the next thing to talk about, but go ahead and say what you want.
Well, I did, that, you know, first of all, the stuff that happened with Damonte in mid lane was after that successful bot dive.
Mm-hmm. So it was like that was their response basically.
Yeah. It's like roller coaster of emotion, right? You get the double kill in bot and then, you know, you kind of mess it up after that. Now there was much made, probably due to the caster call, about the reset on blue buff for closer and how that ruined the start of the game for him, right?
Ruined his game. Yep. The whole
now,
game.
I want to say that so it didn't feel as catastrophic to me as it could have. Now, the argument and the ensuing counter argument are this: by 4 minutes, closer was even on CS. So within 4 minutes, I mean, really, if you're talking about since the reset, it's like within like 2 minutes, basically. He had even up the CS. Now the counter argument, right, is that Blabber was able to go get the kill, get stronger. Yep. How do you measure the effect of that kill on to the Rex side for the rest of the game? Could have been a massive deal. Could have been just kind of a little boost. I don't know. It's hard for me to say. And smart people like I think was it Ezreal that was mentioning this on the cast? I think obviously Ezreal is a way better League of Legends analyst than I am. I'm not an analyst. I'm stupid, right? I get that. Yeah. But I just didn't seem like as catastrophic for me. I think there was like a Blabber diff in this game. Like he just went off. Absolutely went off. Yeah. And that sure I'm willing to be like, yeah, no, that's a contributing factor. But I don't want to just say like closer absolutely folded in the game, because I think closer did some things to make sure that he was still going to be relevant, at least on what has been a power pick in the Talia.
Yeah. I mean, I think that one of the main differences I see in that is he had to spend some of those key windows that we typically see the action happening. He had to spend those farming. He had to catch up, try to at least claim the gold he could that was on the map. Blabber was an absolute terror, right? He finished 9, 5, and 13. I'm pretty sure that at one point he was 8 and 1. And I think that is largely a testament to just how challenging a strong Rek'Sai specifically is to play against in the lane phase, and kind of the early game, right? So he did, like, his power spike was early, and for me, what I'm left wondering is if we didn't allow him to get going. Like, he had 8 kills early, and was just too strong. Like, there was nothing you could do against him because he would, basically just one-shot people. If we didn't allow that to happen, that game looks very different. Because there were, and we're gonna get into this too, like, this game was closer than it definitely could have been.
Yeah,
and we'll get into that a little bit more. But we fought back into it, and that was one of the things. As I was watching it with my brother-in-law, who's a big Cloud9 fan, which
traitor.
He's been watching a lot longer than I have, so I can't fault him. Right, C9's. I'm sure if he joined at the same time, he'd be a 100 Thieves fan. But that's what I said. I hope that we make a game of this, right? And I feel like we did. So that's what I look at as to kind of wrap up the discussion on Blabber and him getting that kill in mid lane. It really felt like it snowballed to the point where he was such a dangerous presence on the map at all times, basically just picking people off kind of left and right. So it was scary. And I think it largely kept closer from doing the same kind of thing, right? Like, he wanted to be ulting on cooldown to influence the side lanes. And I think because Blabber was so strong, it just was not really possible to do that. And you look at this is probably a transition to our next topic, but our double kill in the bot lane, right? That was because Ssumday TP'd in. So if we didn't have, if closer had his normal pathing, is that an assist that he gives to the bot lane, saving the TP for Ssumday, which allows us to do everything else, right?
Yeah.
It's a domino effect. So, who knows what would have been or could have been, but certainly it was not how we wanted to start that game.
Yeah, and you I think you mentioned this indirectly, but the effect that it had on the mid lane matchup too. I mean, Damonte basically had nothing to do after that happened. He had no semblance of lane pressure.
Right.
And Perkz was able to move around as a result. And some of the rotations actually ended up being kind of weird in this match. But they were able to do things like they sent 4 into bot. They TSM'd our bot lane, right? They sent 4, as you mentioned. Perkz had to go bot at one point to clean up a wave because we were smashing Sven. But he was able to, right? Because of the massive lead he had accrued. So yeah, it is hard to trace the thread. So I will give you that. I guess my motivation for saying that, and then we can move on, is just, like I said, I don't want it to be like, oh no, Closer actually got everything messed up. It's like Closer still hung in there admirably, in my opinion. Now, speaking of that, we worked our way back into this game from being down 4 or 5K. And that is against a team like C9, that is a tough thing to do, man. And I'm not sure I really saw how it happened. I'm not sure. Why did we start winning the fights? Why did we had 2 fights in a row that we actually won, and then I think it was actually a Baron take, right? A Baron attempt from us where they were able to push us off and get some kills that kind of reset things back to, okay, they're going to be ahead and they're going to take control of the game. I think we even 4-0'd them on Drakes, right?
They got 1 Drake. Oh, it was an Elder. Their Drake was an Elder.
Yeah. So we got the soul for nothing, which was, kind of a big focal point of this team is the dragon control. So now, our timings were good on that. I will say, go ahead.
The cloud soul with this team comp. Our problem was that we were just getting out damaged, right? You had Blabber, you had Perkz just absolutely wrecking with the poke. Even Samira has been on Samira. That's just a lot of damage in these team fights. So, having basically, I view one of the primary advantages of the Cloud Soul is that there's a very good chance that you're going to have your full arsenal of ultimate abilities ready for a team fight. And I just think that one of the things, it wasn't that we weren't able to hit our ults, right? We just were getting out damaged and we couldn't keep up with their output in a lot of these fights. So, maybe an Ocean or Infernal would have helped to kind of reset that advantage a little bit. I just don't feel like the Cloud was really the thing that we were missing.
Did you hear that? Jordan said it's all RNG's fault. If we get better Drake RNG, we're fine.
Reroll the Drakes. Give us the win.
I should mention, by the way, Closer had a Dragon Steel, and we turned that fight. And if I remember, Ssumday and FBI absolutely went off in that fight too.
Yeah, Ssumday hit, I think, 3 sweet spot Qs.
Yeah, it was, which that's something we see every season. Ssumday has historically played a lot of Aatrox for us. And yeah, he has done the sweet spot thing over and over again into groups of people that has just been absolutely devastating. And that was certainly an instance of that. And then that I think gave us the soul point pressure.
Yeah.
So,
right.
Okay, cool. And look, the fight, first of all, Closer has stolen a couple of objectives already this year.
Yeah.
Closer is starting for me to be is he in that Xmithy territory where, you almost have to have 2 smites going against him? I don't know. He has enough of a threat doing that stuff to give the other team pause, which is really cool. The other, well, let's see, where do I want to go next? Give me 1 second. Sorry, let me look at our rundown again. So I mentioned with that failed Baron take that kind of turned things for us. There was another moment that was kind of bad, and that was Ssumday getting caught out in top lane.
Yeah.
And I don't think that we anticipated how much they would send in there to kill him, because it kind of seemed like our guys thought we could save him or at least trade kills.
Oh,
do you
that
remember
was
what
it.
I'm talking about?
Yes.
Yeah. And at
really
that
tried to
point,
save
we
them.
lost the game, right?
Yep.
We
that was it.
really went in to save Ssumday. And I feel like if we would have just cut the ties there and gone back, we still would have been in the game. But, you know, when he got wiped, I think we lost, was it 3 more after he died?
3, I think. Yeah.
And that was
a really
it.
hard play to watch.
Yeah. And it's kind of uncharacteristic. But like I said, I just don't think we anticipated they would send that many out. You know, if we were playing TSM, maybe, but yeah.
Yeah, it was. It was just it felt like the balloon had been deflated. Like you either you lose a guy, and look, you can lose a guy in a scenario like that where the game is set up the way it is, and you can lose the game, right? We've seen it happen this split where people you know, one guy gets picked off and then there's a key objective that you really can't honestly fight for.
Yeah.
And it all snowballs from there. So I don't think that we were in that situation. I think we should have just accepted the loss, given up what we needed to, got back to full strength, and kind of restarted our effort to catch back up.
Yeah.
But I think we kind of called the bluff on that, and they answered.
And they weren't bluffing. So, yeah.
No.
So that kind of hurt to see.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you though, did you feel like we were outclassed in this match? And tell me why or why not.
I don't think so. No, I mean, one, the fact that we made this competitive, I think that is our best argument to say we weren't outclassed. Certainly FBI would say that he was actually outclassing the opponents, and we'll talk more about that too. End of the game, 9-6-6. You know, like he had half of our kills. So very, very impressive stuff from him. He continues to do this in games where we are behind. Like, this is the difference. I'm going to keep coming back to this point. This is the difference between him and other aggro ADCs, or just aggro players in general. He manages to find smart, aggressive plays to make where he's going to at least go even. And oftentimes he gets multiple, right? Like, he just doesn't int that often. It's going to happen every now and again. But if he inted in this game, his stat line would have showed it.
Yeah.
He was making smart, aggressive plays. I think that is his advantage in this league right now, is he is aggressive and smart, and he knows how to find good fights, even when we are basically losing across the map. That's a really hard thing to do. That's instinct. And I think that will be a really strong point for him. And it is his strong point when we're ahead, because it makes him that much more dangerous. So were we outclassed? No, I don't think so. I think it was a couple of things. It was a really unfortunate start. And Blabber doing what Blabber does best. But even that, we put Blabber in check, right? And you could say it was his champion or whatever, but he, like I said, he started 8-1, he ended 9-5. So we adapted. We found a way to make sure that he couldn't continue to just feast the whole game. And we came back into it as a result.
So I actually did feel outclassed in this game, even though I thought we did an insanely good job to bring it back. And when I say outclassed, I don't mean like, oh, we're totally in a different tier of skill than them, because I don't feel that way. But I did feel like a lot of the times it just felt like they were better. And the one piece that we haven't talked about really, because I'll say this.
Perkz.
Perkz. But I'll say this. To me, after this weekend, I'm like, yeah, our bot lane is the best bot lane.
That's my note too.
We already thought we were top 2, probably.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe top 3. It was like, okay, it's us, C9 and TL, right?
Yeah.
I mean, TL, FBI looked great. Huhi looked great. And Sven got his butt kicked in the laning phase during this. Now,
yeah,
Samira is new. I don't know her like patterns, right? I don't know. It's like, is Samira just, she gets bullied early and then whatever. I don't know. But even though Sven actually finished with a pretty good stat line, he's 7-4-9. I'm telling you right now, he got his butt kicked in lane. And and we know like FBI is provably a beast. So, and Huhi is too. But Huhi is a critical part of that. Huhi's been playing great all year. Now, even though he had 9 deaths in this game, which kind of hurt, but it didn't feel like it didn't really feel like Huhi's fault, you know, on these things.
No.
He did have like one kind of misengage. Wait, was that even this game? No, that was a different game. I'm thinking of the Nautilus game. Anyway, but yeah, it just didn't feel like that rubs off on Huhi in the wrong way. I think we got the best bot lane in NA. So that's sick. But in mid lane, Perkz absolutely slapped us around with the Zoe.
Yeah.
It was everything you want a Zoe to be. Now, we talked already ad nauseum about how we think Perkz is going to come online.
Mm-hmm.
He's online. He is online.
I think Zoe is one of those champs. Yeah.
Yeah. If he's on a champ like Zoe, and he was landing like everything, all the poke, all the one-shotting of the carries, like that sort of thing. Jeez, man. And I'll still say I think Damonte overall is playing very well for us. Even more than that, like the fit is such that he's even more valuable to our team. So this is not me dunking on Damonte or anything, which maybe Cole last year would have done. But Cole this year is not going to do that. I've grown. But you know, there's no contest on which mid laner was more impactful in the game. And
for sure.
It's a Zoe to Galio, right? Like that's not really a fair comparison. I get it. I get that point. But Perkz absolutely destroyed us. And he, along with Blabber's early, like really outclassed the rest of the team, you know, on us. So I did feel like C9 has that like extra something that we're going to have to find it within ourselves to match. And I think that's in range for us. But as of right now, I come out of this game being like, hey, we made that pretty close and we went down swinging, but they are still just a better overall team than us. And I don't feel like it's a coin flip when we're playing C9. I feel like C9 has an edge. Does that make sense?
It makes sense. I don't know if I agree. I mean, here's what I would say about Damonte into Perkz specifically. We have seen Damonte hold his own in a game where his job is not to take over the game. It's to enable other people to, right? Call it supportive, call it enabling, call it whatever you want. We've also seen him pop off. So, you know, he can do all the things that this team needs him to do. That's why we're 5-1. I think that this game looks very different for him if our opening looks different. So I'm not ready to say we're outclassed just yet. I think we made a big bet in the opening, you know, minutes of this game, and it didn't pay off.
Can I ask you something differently then to kind of, because you're like, you don't think we're outclassed. You're not ready to say that. Okay. Do you think Damonte has a Zoe game like that Perkz Zoe game in him?
No.
Then isn't that an outclass?
If your question is Damonte as good as Perkz on Zoe, the answer is no. And Perkz is in a different class.
Yeah.
I'm fine saying that. I think that's not how I'm measuring the quality of Damonte.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think we'll need him to have that kind of a game.
Yeah.
On Zoe. If he had that kind of a game, you know, there's another win that we might not have got otherwise, for sure. Because the rest of the team will easily mop that up, right? So that's how I'm looking at it. Is it depends on what you're measuring, right? If you're measuring carry potential and, you know, like mechanics, then yeah, I think Perkz is in a league of his own. Basically, I think it's him and mid laners in LEC or not LEC. I don't mean LEC.
Definitely not LEC.
Mid laners in LPL and LCK, right? Like I think that's who that conversation involves.
Yeah.
And I think Damonte would be foolish to say that he is that, because I don't think that's honest. And you don't need to be that to be the best mid in the LCS. Like I think that's a separate conversation, right? It's like,
well,
hey, look,
that I disagree.
If you are not the best 3-point shooter in the league, but your team is going to win the championship, don't worry about it. don't try to shoot more threes. Continue to play the game that you're best suited to play. Like, I think that's how I'm looking at it. He's not going to be Perkz, and I don't need him to be.
Yeah.
I need him to help us win.
I'm not buying your math, because the thing to me with the analogy is, and I don't want to drill that. I don't actually have a problem with Damonte. I think he's playing great. Like, I think he's playing the way we need him to play for our team to be the best version of the team we can be. So
yeah,
get that out of the way. I think the deal is, with the analogy that you're saying, it's like when you say like you don't have to shoot the threes to win the game, so just play the game that you need to win. That still doesn't address like the individual player comparing to the other ones. You know what I mean? Like, there still is like a class difference between someone who can shoot the three and someone who can't. Now, Damonte, as part of a greater whole, I think has played a really important role in making us who we are and giving us that chance. So I'm all for that. And
like,
you know the best part?
Oh,
go ahead. Yeah. Go ahead.
Is Steph Curry the best player at his position in the NBA?
At his position? Nah.
Yeah.
He's going off right now, though, but no.
He's the best at shooting threes.
Mm-hmm. Yes, absolutely.
But he's not the best player. So there is a distinction to be made there. It's not just like that. And I think that's all for me, that's all I'm taking from it is, I think there are different facets of your game, league, the same as NBA, where you would say you can be the best at this and still not be the best overall. I think that, and I'm not even saying that Damonte is the best overall. I'm just saying, because Perkz has, unmatched mechanics, I would say, at his position, that's not the full story.
Yeah. And I'll agree with that. I don't think that's the full story. And again, I'm not drilling too deep into that. But the best part is, we are going to get, in my opinion, we're on track to get a chance to really test this, right? Like, in previous seasons, we wouldn't really have a chance to see if we can beat the best there is, like in a best of 5 series. Like, we don't get that chance. And it feels like we're on track this year to get that chance. So the best part of this debate is that we may have a chance to really see it through to an actual conclusion. On if this whole thing about like, is fitting into the overall team more important than how good you are.
For sure.
So I'm super pumped about that. And I don't see a need to make a change to who we are right now at all.
Not at all. Yeah. No, I think we have a great core. The last thing I'll say is, I really don't like, I know that Damonte feels that he is top 3 mid. Like, that's kind of what he said, right? Like, I want people to respect me and acknowledge that I am top 3 mid. Like, I'm not just the 5th man, the afterthought. Like, they're holding out for the next import slot to open so they can replace me. Like, he deserves to be here. That's how he's talked about it. And I think that he's proving that largely. Yeah. I don't need him to ego chow Perkz in the jungle.
Yes.
Don't. It's not, just don't do it. Like, that's not how we win our games. And so just don't, and he did it in the lock-in, and the stakes are lower. That's the time to do it. Yeah. So I don't need him to do that. I don't want him to do that. As much as everyone would have loved to see you have to shave your beard, it didn't happen. It shouldn't have happened. And I hope that that's not something that he views as like, he needs to prove that he can do that, because that's not what we're about, right? That's not what our team's about.
Yeah.
FBI is going to ego chow everybody, so don't worry. He's got it covered.
Yes, he does. And then more on what you said at the end there to come when we get to listener takes. I think we have probably the best overall round of listener takes we've ever had on the show. So I'm super pumped to do that. We got a
game to go too.
We still have to talk about the TL game, though. I honestly have less to say about the TL game. Jordan, first, let me volley you a question as I typically do. FBI playing Ezreal, your thoughts?
At first I was like, oh, this is different and new. And then I thought about it for a second and I was like, this is great. And then I saw it and I was like, this is his champion. Like, this is his style of champion, right? And you didn't need to look any further than the 2v2 in lane. where he uses the arcane shift to get that last auto in. It's like, oh, give this guy 2 flashes and he's going to challenge 2 people per engage, right? Like that's how this goes.
Yeah.
And he's going to find the angles and he's going to land the skill shots. So yeah, I think for me, I recognize this is not like his most dominant game. I don't think 6-3 and 4. So I'm making it sound like he is a god and he took over, but like this, I would say this is more of what I would think of as his kind of champion than Senna, right? Even though Senna can be and has been for him even more dominant.
And can I say though that it's like a game this short, seeing the Ezreal do what he did, I think was great. I mean, I didn't like the pick, honestly. It's like this does not seem like Ezreal, like FPS kind of champion to me. And I have
After
some kind
play
of
it, did you feel differently?
Sort of. I have some kind of internal bias against Ezreal. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe it's because I play ADC and I just never really clicked with Ezreal, so I don't play it.
Yeah.
But it seems to be weak to me unless it's A, either crazy ahead, or B, the game goes long enough. And just in general, it's like, don't you want a champion for FBI that's more like Kai'Sa or whatever, and can actually get to like an assassinate people state,
sustained team fight,
or insane DPS kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, so it went better than I expected. I think that's the thing, is like it went better than expected for me. So I was like, okay, cool. Like he can play that serviceably too. I'm not seeing a weakness here. Like literally the only thing I can think about FBI is that like his aggression. So if you manage to survive the aggression, which typically you don't, you may get a chance to kill him in return and punish it. But it's like, this dude, if he can even do this on Ezreal in a shorter game, like, gosh, man, he is a beast. So yeah, I didn't like absolutely love it, but I thought it was better than I expected. When he locked that in, I was like, we may have just like thrown it. You know, to me, it was our fourth pick. So this was like right after the Quinn for them.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, oh crap, they counterpicked the Renekton. Excuse me, I'm trying to fix that, guys. They counterpicked the Renekton with Quinn, and now we lock in Ezreal.
Yeah, and Nautilus. You know, which again,
flashbacks.
Like, it's just not our. It's not a Huhi power pick, right? Like it lacks a lot of the things that I think make Huhi so. What we talked about earlier with the Tom Kench, right? Like it's a much more straightforward engage, champ. Like he's mixing it up, dishing out CC everywhere. So it's a different style from us for sure. It's yet another look, and yeah, a little spooky.
So I came out of draft, and Darkuth is in chat saying he thought we got the dub halfway through draft. He called the dub before the Quinn pick. He says, yeah, I didn't come out of draft feeling good at all. To me, it felt like we were de-emphasizing FBI by choosing the Ezreal. We let Rel through. And then it's like, if we're de-emphasizing FBI, like who are we emphasizing if Ssumday is on Renekton, got counterpicked, and we locked in the Twisted Fate for Damonte.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like I it didn't feel to me that we had an emphasis coming out of this draft. Isn't that weird? It's like what's the obvious, like, what are we obviously going for here? I'm too stupid to know. This game is
so interesting. It's none of us know, Cole. That's the thing. I mean, you've got the Olaf, so there you go. But here's the interesting thing about this game. You pull up the stats on this and you look at it. 13 to 10 kills, right? We finished the game up 7 or 6.5K gold. So that's good. We like that. But you look at like our conventional carries, like the guys who are usually there doing the most for us. It's Ezreal 6-3-4 and it's Ssumday 0-3 and 7. It's like, do we win that? If you just look at the stats on this, do we win this game? And I mean, it was scrappy, right? TL's a good team. Like they'll be good. Quinn was, really scary, and 4-1 and 5. Like she had our number and was absolutely bossing Ssumday around.
He did make it up. He did make it up for a while. He got smashed, then he like closed the gap, and then he got smashed again.
Yeah. But I mean, like, the counter pick worked, right? He was largely a non-factor. I mean, the end of the game was 0 kills.
I agree. Yeah, the counter pick worked. I think that's unimpeachable.
But it's I think it's the macro, and we've kind of touched on this, but and I'll let you get into it. Before we do, you said that we were the best bot lane earlier. We got a first blood on Core JJ. He was on Rel in a 2v2, and I think for me, it's easy to look at the performance of a bot lane and attribute all of its success to the two players who start the game in that lane, ignoring the TPs that come in, ignoring the ganks, ignoring the roams. These guys, I think so they got a double kill. Now they had a teleport against C9 to help, but that was going to be at least a kill before Ssumday showed up. He was there to tie up the second kill.
Mm-hmm.
And we got first blood in a 2v2, straight up 2v2 against Core JJ and Tactical, the other supposed best bot lane in the LCS. They're building their case. And I think it's harder and harder to ignore the fact that they're in the conversation. And I think you've got to say, now it's whether or not you'd say they're the best bot lane the whole game. In the laning phase, I think these guys are demonstrating that they are, if left to their own devices, in all things equal, they are the best. I think that's what we're seeing.
Yeah. Core JJ is scary, right? And he got Rel, which has been scary for us.
Yeah, I was worried.
Yeah.
Very.
And he there was even one fight, I think it was, oh gosh, I'm probably going to get this wrong. I think it was, we had dragon control and they were coming out of their jungle, maybe. And he got a gauge off on Rel on the 3. If I'm not mistaken, and we still somehow won the team fight, and the game was even at that point.
Right.
So maybe they just didn't know how to synergize it quite well, or I don't know. When I looked at their team comp, it's like, yeah, no, they're gonna be real annoying because we have kind of like the dive comp, and then they have just they can do whatever comp. Yeah, we somehow won those fights even though they were really close. Like maybe it's that GG synergy, we talked about. It's like the bonus synergy we're supposed to have that gives us the extra edge against teams that are still developing that with new players, like say Alfari and Santorin on this new team.
Right.
I can't really explain it. I guess we're just better.
Yeah, I mean, here's what I can say. I do think we have better macro than other teams at this point. And maybe, again, that is the Golden Guardians diff. But I think that is really what is starting to differentiate us in a pretty significant way.
Yeah.
We're making smart macro decisions. It's helping us get back into games. We saw this in week 1 that we had no business being back in. It's helping us close games out in pretty emphatic fashion in situations where, like I've talked about this in the past, right? There are League of Legends games where they're over for 12 to 15 minutes before they actually end. Like some of our games, it looks like it's going well for us, and then suddenly 4 minutes over, the game's done. You're just like, oh, okay, well that's faster than I thought that would happen.
Right.
So that's great. And I feel like we should talk about this Baron push.
Yeah, that's the big thing. I can't, I'm sure that you're probably in the same boat as me, which is seeing the Baron push. I was like, okay, cool, great. Got a good Baron take. We got some things going, and then we're going to crack that inhib turret and then go back. I don't know who decided this, but it's just like, I think we can stay. Someone's like, no, we can stay. Watch this. We can stay. And the Baron push just never ended. And it was so slow and methodical, and you're going into a Quinn and a Rise and a Lilia.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like look, if they get the swirl speed on you, like game over, right? Yeah. Quinn can chase anybody down, get to the back of anything. Rise, like you've got the party portal to take people where you need them to go. There was
flanking is there. It's
there was not an ounce of fear from this team as we pushed in. I mean, they were full strength and we were just chilling. Like I think even for a while we were 4v5 up top while Ssumday was in mid working on that tower. And we're just like, no, we're good. And when we got through the inhibitor, we got those 2 cannons all the way up to the Nexus turrets, and they just let that happen.
They just took it out.
And we just kind of protected the cannons, and then guess what? The next wave showed up with another cannon. And it was just it's like all of a sudden, this game's actually over. So the trying to think of another word for it, but like the determination, the guts, right? That kind of slow push takes is off the charts to me. And I hope that we get a heist episode where we get to see kind of what went into that decision in team comps or whatever, because dang, what a call. And you know what? That wasn't the only crazy good call we made. We almost snuck that Baron right out from under them without them knowing at all. Jensen found it out and used the ult to check, but like we got really close to just straight up sneaking Baron away with no knowledge. And I loved it. Yeah, no, it's really hard to do. And I loved watching the team go for this stuff. I thought surely we were going to throw with the Baron push. I was like, oh, we're not ahead by that much.
Yeah, we weren't.
Honestly, it felt to me until we made that play and got Baron, it felt like they were actually kind of squeezing us out, you know, just holding you until the blood drains, you know, kind of thing. But we like just gutted it out, and that was like one of my favorite things I've seen this season from the team.
Yeah,
was the courage and decisiveness to make that happen. So, dang.
Right. Yeah, it was recognizing. It's kind of going back to what we talked about with the FlyQuest game, where I think the assumption in that situation is you take your inhib. Maybe if you're feeling really confident about it, you rotate and take mid, and get 2. Like, hey, great Baron push. Please go back to base and we'll reset and we'll continue to play this game. We're just like, yeah, we'll just stay. It's fine. We're good. And I mean, like we had gotten popped a little bit. Like our health, it's not like we had full health bars and we were like, we have no reason to leave.
Yeah.
We just didn't scare. And that was super, super impressive. Like that's the stuff where, and again, we'll learn someday, or at least we'll have our assumptions about who's behind this stuff. But somebody in this team is making great calls, and we are winning games as a result of it.
Yeah, and that's a good spot to be in. So, I think that probably wraps up our talk of the games. We've actually gone really long on this. But you know, as Math Geek explained, 3 games. We talk more now, right?
We got more to talk about. Cole. It's hard.
Speaking of more to talk about, do you want to do predictions first or listener takes first?
Let's do listener takes.
Okay. Like I said, we've got a lot of great things here. One, in fact, that I'll read at the end as kind of like a food for thought thing. But yeah, let's just run through these. Our man BC is giving us, instead of hot takes, he's giving us mild shoots. That's been his thing lately. He knows I'm not much for a hot take, but so he just provides the mild shoot. And his mild shoot for this week is that we are the best team fighting team in the LCS currently, either through pure 5v5 or punishing mistakes on the map. Even the C9 game, we were down 5 gold before we clawed our way back to even before the Baron throw. Gives me an optimistic mindset going forward. Jordan, your thoughts?
Wow, an optimistic mindset. It's an adjustment. Yeah, I mean, there are definitely like we've talked about fights we shouldn't have won that we did. Dragon steals that we shouldn't have got that we did. So yeah, I think it's hard to argue a lot with the idea that, and I think at 5-1 you kind of have to say, yeah, we are certainly up there. Whether or not we're the best, I think is TBD. I don't know, Cole. I don't have what feels like a very cohesive answer to this, clearly. as I'm sitting here trying to find something to say. What do you think?
I think it's a mild shoot. I think it's a mild shoot. Yeah. I do think we're the best team fighting team right now. We seem to win some engages and some fights that we shouldn't. I don't think it's cut and dry, like clearly we're demonstrably better than anybody else in the field. I think that there are, C9 especially is a team that's right up there with us in that. I've seen some crazy stuff out of EG too that, kind of almost makes you think they can be at that level. But I think that if we're not the best, we're definitely like top 2. So yeah, I'm good with that. So let's go from a mild shoot to a bona fide hot take. Now, you guys,
spicy.
I'll say this again. I do not care for hot takes generally because a lot of hot takes come from a perspective of I'm going to have a hot take and not here's what I believe. It's like hot takes. Originally, hot takes were cool because it was like, oh gosh, like look at this. I never thought about it that way. And he's probably actually right. Hot takes now is like, let me just say, like, let me call into Hotline League and be like, yeah, no, I think Golden Guardians is definitely going to win the LCS this year. Why do you think that? I just feel like they're going to win. And
like, I think
why do you feel like it's going to win? I don't know. I just wanted to, you guys asked for hot takes. So I wanted to get like, that is literally what happens on that show sometimes. No fault of Travis, but yeah. So anyway, here is a bona fide hot take, not for the sake of being a hot take, but here it is. So this comes from somebody whose Twitter handle was too long and crazy for me to even type it, let alone say it. But his Twitter name is Ovidius. I think I'm saying that right. Ovidius. He says, hot take. I don't want Ssumday to get a green card just because I don't want us to get rid of Damonte for some random import. He fits so well to the team, both in terms of gameplay and personality. Now, the fits so well in the team gameplay personality thing, I don't think that's the hot take portion of this. I think most people agree with that sentiment. Mm-hmm. But to take it as far as I don't want Ssumday to get a green card because I don't want that to happen. Now that is a hot take with some legitimate, like that. Okay. That's kind of fair in it.
Right.
Jordan, go for it.
All right. Yeah. I like this take. It begs the question, just because you can, should you? And I think we've seen this, right? Like Bang didn't work out for us. Decidedly did not work. Yeah. And I don't know if Ovidius has been a fan as long as, the Bang days. But that's a real concern, right? Like, I think what's one of the things we're learning is an import is not, you should not assume it's just going to slot right in to whatever team you want them to be thrown into and work even better because they are better, right? I think that's one of the great things about League is you can have, again, like going back to the Perkz Damonte thing, it might be that putting Perkz in for Damonte, which is not an option, but if we were to do that, or a player of Perkz's caliber, like mechanically, would they be better? Sure, perhaps they would be, but would it make up for the difference in how Damonte knows that the team likes to play and how he can anticipate where he should be when, like all of those kinds of things that come from reps with the team, and really for having a play style that just meshes well? And I think the answer is no, right?
Yeah.
So, I think this take is hot because he's basically saying he's worried that if we have the option to, we will. And I think that's a legitimate concern, right? Like, what do you think? Do you think, Cole, that they would automatically acquire somebody if they had another import slot, or would they perhaps just have only one import?
I think they import a mid. If they get another slot, they import a mid. I think that's a no-brainer, to be honest. But the problem is there is not a shortage of import mids that would on paper be like, okay, this dude is a better player than Damonte. Okay. Mm-hmm. But you're right. Of that, who are the players who are going to slot in and still be a net positive?
Right.
Because it ain't the whole list. And even worse, it's nearly impossible to predict who's going to be on that list. Like if we get Larson, do we know Larson is going to fit into this style? To me, I feel like he would. I'm not sure. It's a crapshoot sometimes, right? You can get a sick player who just isn't a fit. So that's why I love this take so much. I think if I'm 100 Thieves and I get another import slot, I would still go for it. But the other part of that is, would you switch that player in if you got him though? And that's where it's like, oh, I don't want to mess this thing up right now. I don't see a reason to. So that this take, like, and that take, like, I think in my mind, I kind of was already getting there, but that take really made me externalize the fact that, okay, no, I would not change Damonte out right now if we had that player. So, we got to start losing first, right?
No, no losing, please.
So yeah, I love that take. I absolutely love that take.
It makes you think.
Going down next, another excellent.
By the way,
go ahead.
Can I just say on this one, if you are in management and you make this call and it doesn't work out, like that is a horrible.
Yeah.
Because not only is it a team that is good on paper, everybody up to the CEO of the organization is on record saying, I love this team. The energy is top notch. What a fun bunch to watch. And then you go and you splash the cash on some high profile mid laner and we start losing games and you see the player cams after we win and everybody's just sitting there like this. And like you hit LinkedIn and update your resume that day if that's what happens. So I got to assume that management is aware of the same dynamic and thinking very carefully about, like, boy, that is a conundrum. I mean, he's got to get the green card before we can even talk about that. But it's an interesting thought experiment.
Yeah.
Just in a larger setting. So I like that one.
It really is. I love that take. And Papa Smithy in chat said, isn't that every management call? Touche, salesman. All right. Next one. Another thing I loved. Okay. So Oh My Josh 5 says, say they go 3-0 next week and they are sitting at 8-1. Will your expectations for this season change or will they stay the same? That is a dude who listens to me and understands my brain. All right. Oh My Josh 5 knows how I work. And he knows that when I get to that, like right now, I feel like we're on the precipice of being like a title contender. Right. Mm-hmm. And the crazy part is we've only got like one tough opponent left in TSM, which is kind of roll the dice. Sometimes they're not always that DSM, right? So the question is, if we make it all the way to 8-1, do my expectations go from we could contend for a title to we can win the title? Mm-hmm. That's how I'm like understanding that question. And I don't know the answer, so Jordan, stall for me while I come up with my answer. I have to answer.
I thought you were going to lead us into it.
No, you got to stall for me.
Wait, we get a double round robin still in spring, right? Like we're still going to play everybody twice. Right?
Yes, that's true. Yep.
Okay. Thank goodness. Let's not forget that in week 1, we had a couple of games that were very, very close and we almost didn't win them. So, we are not infallible and we are not only, at 5-1 because C9 is so good. Like there are definitely still things that we need to work on and improve on.
Yeah.
So I don't feel like this is a 5-1, like you see some splits where it's like, this team is just leaps and bounds better than anybody else. And the only way they don't hang a banner is if they decide to throw on, finals day. Like, I don't think we're that. And I think even if we win all our games next week, I don't think we're that. Because our games next week are pretty light comparatively to some of the other games. Like we have Immortals, Golden Guardians, TSM.
Yeah, this past weekend was a tough weekend for sure.
Yeah. And to go 2-1 is great. And I feel very positive overall. Like, don't mistake what I'm saying. But I do feel like, actually, if we end up losing even just one of these, to Immortals or Golden Guardians, I do think that there's a a moment where you're like, are we well, at that point we would be 7-2. Are we 7-2, assuming we lose TSM? Or no, sorry, when we went out. Are we 7-2 or whatever because we got lucky? That's what you start to worry about and wonder about. And I don't think that's where we are. But if we lost some of those games, I think that's what we'd have to be asking ourselves. So
yeah, because
it
you
feels like
think
we have
back
more
to
to lose than gain.
Yeah,
this next weekend.
And you think back to those 2 games that we won by the skin of our teeth against weaker opponents, right?
Yeah.
Right. But maybe we should have lost those. To me, it's like, but you have to grit out those games. Okay. Again, another traditional sports analogy. I'm sorry, but it just how the brain tends to work. So Jordan and I's college basketball team, right, is, I think the record is 13-5. It's Illinois. Yet they're ranked number 5 in the country with 5 losses. And it's like they've had to grind out so many close wins against unranked opponents. But here's the thing. They grind out those wins against the unranked opponents on nights when they don't really have it. And that ends up historically being a characteristic of a good team, not of a team that, is overachieving. So it's tough. It's really tough to make that call. So I guess my answer to this question is, do my expectations change? Look, yes, they do. I think if we go 8-1, we're in a space where I feel like not a lot of teams start out 8-1 and don't make finals, at least.
Yeah.
And I think competition is going to get harder as the year goes on. But we're going to get tougher as the year goes on too. I hate the word expectations because if you don't meet them, you feel disappointed. It would take a pretty drastic turn though. Even if we don't win finals, if we don't make finals even, it would probably take a pretty drastic turn for me to feel like not good about the way the team has been. So if the current trajectory continues, yeah, I'm going to feel more positive for sure. And I already feel pretty great. So, okay. Dargor says, first of all, how does it feel to keep the beard alive? Part of me was like, oh, okay. Yeah. Like, I mean, I want to keep the beard, but it would be kind of nice. I'm sure my wife would like it if I got rid of it for a while. Plus you see how unkempt it is right now. So, but never in doubt. Dargor is never in doubt. My question is, should we worry about the team's lack of ability to snowball through topside? I know Ssumday is a good weak side player, but to me, it just seems like something we have not had great results with recently. I'll start with that one, Jordan, if you want. By the way, I'm getting so many of your pixels again. It feels great.
Hey, I'm back.
My thing about this is that Ssumday is like, we haven't really seen them try it very much because he hasn't had to. It seems that clearly 100T's preference is to focus on the bot lane right now. And why wouldn't you when you have the best bot lane in NA? You also have one of the best top laners in NA. Yes, we get that. And he is doing a very good job playing weak side with very little commitment from the rest of the team, So, not commitment, but the support, right? Very little ganking, investment, etc.
Yeah.
And Ssumday has proven himself to be a very good weak side player. So when you say it seems to me something we've not had great results with recently, I would say it's also something we kind of just don't have results with, period, lately, because we're not really doing it. We're not really having to. So do I think that that's going to be something our team learns to do? Probably. I think probably, yeah. But as of right now, we just haven't had to. And it's starting to feel like because Ssumday hasn't been in that position, that's like, oh, maybe Ssumday's like not playing as well right now. Not worried. Just not worried.
Yeah. This is one thing I thought we'd talk about more, honestly, is Ssumday in this show. We've just drastically overrun our timing. Here's what I think about Ssumday. I think his job, in the same way that we look at Damonte and say, look, we don't need him to play, World's Tier Zoe. That's not how we're going to win this game. I think Ssumday's job, he's played 4 out of 6 games Renekton. Renekton.
Yeah.
And I think largely his job is to be the meat tenderizer, right? Show up in these team fights and knock off about 400 to 600 HP so that FBI can get a quadra, right? Like, that's pretty much his job. We don't need him to get the kills in these fights. We need him to show up and make it so that the other team cannot survive the onslaught of FBI.
Yeah.
You know, and that it feels like in some ways that's we're diminishing what he can do, or, you know, like maybe, I'm sure that's oversimplifying it, right? He does more than that. But I think largely if he can do that successfully, if he can get into the back line, if he can stun lock somebody, you know, if he can hit his W's on Renekton, there's a good chance we're going to win that fight. Like, that's what we talk about when we say we're the best team fighting team in the LCS. He plays a very large role in that. And so, yeah, I'm not worried about it. I will say I'm a little bit worried. It feels like in the same way that for a while their teams were just target banning Damonte week 1, basically.
Mm-hmm.
I think now what we're seeing is that the strategy against us has evolved to chain gank Ssumday. And we, you know, he is seeming more susceptible to that, maybe because it's just more effective, right? It's not necessarily reflecting a weakness in him, but other teams are just getting better at it. In the same way that for a while there are dives weren't working because I think teams were preparing specifically for that. I feel like he's actually been caught in more situations in lane than we're used to seeing of him. And probably in the past it's been because he's had a little bit more support than he does now. So my hope is that I think if he can adapt and respond to the extra lane pressure he's getting, and Renekton is a pretty hard champ to escape with if you are, you know, not like hitting your dashes exactly. We've seen that a few times where he just misses that first hit on the dash to enable the second cast
The reset,
of it.
yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, that's what I'm looking at and thinking more so than like, are we missing his ability to take over a game? Like, I just want to make sure that he doesn't become the next thing that people continue to try to punish us for with counter picks or with repeat ganks.
Yeah, well, I mean, that could also just be an indication of how good the bot lane is. It's like, we're not even going to try there. And it's generally harder to play the game 1v2 than 1v1. So, yeah, I see where you're coming from. And it does feel that way, but my brain talks me out of it. So is the only thing I would say.
Yeah.
Moving right along, I still want to read the rest of these, Jordan. So sorry we've gone long.
Go for it. No, I've got another mug full of Rip It, so we're good.
Our man Leech Terrell on Twitter says, imagine how many games this split we would have lost with our previous rosters that just did nothing when they were behind. and like, I know that's not like a huge discussion point, but it's like, yeah, actually it felt like that for a while, that when we got punched, we wouldn't try. And I think that started to change course at some point last year, but there was a good solid year, maybe year and a half, where it felt like that at all. And that's just a pretty interesting thought. It's like, even if you have like good skill, if you remove that part of the mentality, how many times did we actually come back and fight? So I think
it's another illustration of what you're talking about with the, like, great teams win the close games against people that they're not supposed to lose games against, right? I think that's exactly what this is getting at.
Yep. It's Chase 26 asks, this serious, everybody's on fire with these. Will we ever beat C9 again when it matters most? This is actually like a deceptively good question, because we've pulled these wild, like, rando C9 stomps out when it doesn't really do much for us, you know?
Yeah.
And he's asking when it matters most. So again, like, think about a playoff situation. Think about jockeying for a seed, you know, like say we're trying to get into that second seed so we can have the advantages when it comes to the playoffs. Will we ever beat them when it matters most? You first.
Okay. Yeah, of course we will. Yes. Although I will say, this is kind of the C9 thing, right? Like, this is their run through the gauntlet to get to Worlds, to make it further in Worlds than anybody thought they would. Like, this is kind of what C9 does. So in that sense, I don't feel as bad that they have had our number of late, because this is what they do. But yeah, I think we will. Like, especially if our team in this ever scenario, if our team looks more like it does now than more like it did last year, then yeah, I think so. I think for sure. I think this is a pretty evenly matched group, like, of players between the two of us. It's possible that they hit some kind of crazy power spike with Perkz just taking over every game that he plays in, and then we're gonna have to figure that out. But if it continues as it is this split, I expect more good games between the two of us, because we've really had a lot of them. More of them have been good and close, competitive, than not.
Yeah, it no longer. You guys remember? Many of you may remember. We used to call the series against C9 El Blásico, right? El Blásico, because it just like felt every time we played them. It didn't really feel like a series. I think those days are over for now. And that's good. Will we ever beat them when it matters most? They're gonna be like, they're the team that I really don't want to see in the playoffs. Like, give them to me as late as possible. But I think we can. I'm not gonna say we will, but I think.
Look at this, guys. Optimus Cole.
I'm making progress. I'm making progress. Okay, and then one more thing. We're not gonna break this down, especially because, quite honestly, it's above our level of analysis, right? Like, you guys know, we are not League of Legends experts. Our line is that we're 100 Thieves fan experts, right? Like, that's what we do. We're not really smart about League. This take goes above that, but it is really nice food for thought, and I think that this person might have a point. So he wrote a little bit of a novel. I'll try and go through it as fast as I can. Again, we're not going to like break this down or anything, but just putting it out there. So this is NVSTT in Twitch chat, who says 100T's success correlates pretty strongly with Closer's jungle pathing and clear. When lock-in was a stomp fest, Closer was pathing towards bot lane and will be ready for the level 3 all-ins with Damonte's global presence ready as well. However, since the start of the summer split, he's had some mistakes and their impact has been pretty glaring. Firstly, against EG, the blue invade was amazing. However, he went to our red Raptors instead of going to our blue. If he was at our blue, Huhi comes up and they win game at level 2 easily. I guess watch the VOD, see if he's right. Another example this weekend on Talia. The blue blunder was actually huge. We talked about this earlier. And he says he actually borrows some of this from LS. Because if he had a normal clear, Damonte couldn't have gotten Dove at level 1, which Jordan was saying earlier. And Closer wouldn't be at Raptors already, and Rek'Sai couldn't start it. And then, so there are a couple of like...
Oh, that's the thing, yeah.
Yeah.
Because he was still in his bot side jungle, Rek'Sai was harvesting our Raptors and ready to tunnel under the wall and dive. Yep.
So a couple illustrative examples there. And then he says, what I'm getting at by most of this is that Closer is the wild card, not Damonte, like everyone thinks. Closer is an extremely good jungler, but we often find ourselves in a situation where the game is predicated on his early success, sort of like contracts, but to a much lesser extent. Food for thought. I like it. I think he may have something there. I'll borrow someone with a bigger brain to tell me if it's really, really true. But I thought that was interesting information and wanted to put that out there. And maybe we'll talk about it on a future podcast when Jordan and I can learn how to jungle, which would never happen. Let me just be clear about that. So predictions for next week, and then we'll get out of here, conclude this crazy long podcast.
Yes.
Jordan, this Friday, we are playing a team called Immortals, whose logo, when you see it very small, kind of looks like somebody's crying, or as Pubes pointed out to me, Dr. Pubes pointed out to me on Twitter, kind of looks like Johnny Bravo's legs upside down, which I can't unsee now.
Oh, that's amazing.
That team, Jordan, is 2-4, and we're playing them on Friday. Do we win?
Yes.
I agree. Prophet Cole says
perfect.
We win against Immortals. Just think we're better, right?
Yeah,
Team diff.
Full
Yeah,
team
yeah,
diff.
exactly. Right. Okay. I don't think we need to dive into that one. Jordan,
No.
here is
Yes.
the question mark, the big wild card.
Oh,
Saturday,
boy.
we
Oh,
take
boy.
on the 4-2 TSM, who, despite looking kind of garbage earlier, is now looking a little less garbage.
Mm-hmm.
Not sure they're getting their 10 million worth or whatever it was for Sword Art, but
It's almost impossible to do. So the
looking
answer is
better.
no, they're not.
They're above Team Liquid in the standings. They're tied at third with Dignitas of all teams. Shout out to former 100 Thieves boys over at Dignitas.
Yes,
we
love to see
do.
it.
We do love to see that. Jordan, do we beat TSM?
Yes.
Would you care to say why? Yeah.
Yeah. I saw somebody on Twitch say this earlier, and I'm not going to be able to find it now, but they said, but how hard has their schedule been? Cole, their 4 wins are against Immortals, Golden Guardians, CLG, and TL, right? So are they looking better? Yes. Are they currently tied for third with Dignitas? Yes. Their opponents so far, I mean, 2 of their wins come against teams that have 2 wins between them. So, and it's because they played each other and they couldn't both lose that game, although maybe they could have. So yeah, I think that TSM is looking better. They're starting to come together a little bit more, but I still think we're better than them. I think we win.
They lost to FlyQuest. I don't know if we mentioned that specifically. So they lost to FlyQuest. They lost to C9. That was their week 1, though.
Mm-hmm.
My prediction is that in a game that is closer than it should be, we do go ahead and win.
Wow.
Look at me. I think bot diff is going to happen.
Yeah.
And I think jungle diff is going to happen.
I like it. I like to hear
now,
those 2
Jordan,
things.
do you want to say anything about Huhi?
I don't think that Huhi is very good.
This is my favorite thing in the world. George, I don't see it. I don't get it. I forget if I said this on the podcast already. I forget if I said this on the pod already. So let me say, if I already said it, I'm going to say it again. Sorry. But this is like Jordan's relationship with Huhi is like, if you guys watch Parks and Rec, Ben's relationship with Lil Sebastian, the horse, where he's like, I don't get it.
Am I missing something? Am I? Ever since we started watching League of Legends, called 2018 on, he has been underperforming. And I understand this is kind of like, I feel like the people who love Udyr, and I'm just like, I don't see why that's a champion anybody should be excited to have in a game. I just don't. I mean, he's certainly not worth what he's been paid. I think someday, we're going to get a top gap here. Like, we've seen his success has come more on, he's like got some NAR games, some GP. Like, you know, he's not, I think Ssumday is going to bully him. I'm looking forward to it.
Speaking of Ssumday, I think we'll raid him when we finish up here.
Yes, we will raid him.
That will be a sound decision.
Stick around.
Okay, so we both agree then. So far this weekend, Jordan, we're 2-0 according to our predictions.
Yes.
That carries us into game 3 of this weekend, the Sunday match against the 1-5 Golden Guardians. What do you think?
Yes, we win. That's a dub. Look, I like the team. I like the story. They're not as good as we are at League of Legends. We're going to win this game.
So, yeah, you know, I think Golden Guardians, they're at 1-5, but to me, they're at like a kind of misleading 1-5. I think they are better than 1-5. Like, to me, they've looked better for the most part. But at the same time, this is kind of like, you know, you're playing Zelda and you've got like Dark Link. You have to fight Dark Link. It's like, okay, you may be like, this may be Golden Guardians, and now we have the previous Golden Guardians, but the previous Golden Guardians are better. They might be facets of the same thing, but we're gonna take them down. So yes, Prophet Cole says 3-0 weekend this week.
Wow.
Which look, I predicted it once this season. I never thought I would ever predict it. I did. I'm doing it again, and I still believe it. This could get bad. But Jordan and I both signaling 3-0. we will know when we get through these games if our fanboyness, which we really do a lot to try to avoid, is just shining through and it's making us overrate this team. I don't know. I think we're good, man. And I think we're going to 3-0 this weekend.
Yeah. I think we won't be the only people predicting a 3-0 this weekend.
Dark Horse calling for my beard again. No, I can't bet my beard every week, guys. I just can't bet it every week. Look, if you come up with something sufficiently compelling on Twitter or in our Discord, which I'll put links to those, you can try it, but we can't do this every week, man. I know you guys hate my beard.
I can't wait to see what this week's beard bet is, and then next week's beard bet. I'm really looking forward to
once I shave my beard, the next week is like, yeah, where do we go from there? Okay,
let it grow back out, I guess.
Well, look, that's gonna do it for the longest episode of Under Talk ever recorded. It has to be, right?
Yeah, this
has to be the longest one we've ever done.
What has happened to us, Cole?
Yeah, what have I become, my sweetest friend? Yeah, well, we've said a lot. We've said a lot this week, and it was a fun talk. It's fun 100 talk. So, guys, it's time to say goodbye. We will see you next weekend, or I guess next Monday, when we are 8-1 atop the LCS solo, because C9 is going to drop a game this weekend. More profit code for you. We're going to raid Ssumday, so stay around for that. And we'll close by saying, as always, we love you and we miss you already.
Take care.
All right, boys, stick around for the raid. Thanks everybody for being here. We love you very much. Thank you for subs. Thank you for follows. Thank you for comments. Twitch chat was really great this week. We appreciate it. Raiding now. Let's do it. Show some love to Ssumday.